Continue the chapter reading of The Arabs at War in Afghanistan by Mustafa Hamid and Leah Farrall. This is the chapter entitled Early Afghan Training and Combat Efforts. Make myself disappear. Early efforts to organize training for the Arab Afghans were unsuccessful. The most prominent of these efforts was the 1984 Badr camp, established with financing from a wealthy Saudi with the name of Salah Kamel and with Abdullah Yusuf Azam as its nominal head, responsible for religious education. Mustafa Hamid. First effort of the Arabs associated with Abdullah Yusuf Azam to train publicly was in 1984. The Badr camp was held in the Habi area of the southern outskirts of Peshawar, which was controlled by Abdullah Sayaf. Abdullah Azam supervised the camp in aspects of religious guidance. He hoped that Afghans and Arabs would gather under the leadership of Sayaf as the former leader of jihad in Afghanistan after he was named president of the Union of Mujahideen Parties, the Ittihad-e-Islam Mujahideen Afghanistan. The Badr camp was made especially for the Afghan Mujahideen. It was financed by a rich and famous Arab, Salah Kamel, who had chosen Azam as the spiritual guide for Arab and Afghan camp trainers. The immediate objective of the Badr camp was to bring together Afghans from rival fronts within a single program and highly spiritual atmosphere offered by Azam's lessons in the hope that hostilities between them would disappear. Now, Afghans were notoriously sectarian. Warlords under, say, Gulbuddin Hekmatyar would not get along with warlords under, say, Abdul Rasul Sayyaf, even though they coexisted. But there's always that long generations held combative nature about Afghans themselves. And even if it was the most menial, most trivial of topics, it would come down to entire tribes meeting with each other and maybe even going to war over. Abdullah Azam was a traditional Islamic leader. He wanted the Afghans to sit together in one place and be friends and to recite the Quran and pray at night and fast 2 days every week. He was seeking to encourage them to follow such religious practices and to sit together and to train them how to fight. It was also hoped that training would lead to the formation of a battalion of Mujahideen, whose number would be 313, the same number as the Muslim army in the Battle of Badr. It is from here the name for the camp came. The camp did not concentrate on fighting and training. This is because those running the camp were themselves not fighters. Abdullah Azam trained with Fatah. He was not a good military man and did not have much in the way of real combat experience. That was Badr. The Arabs just went there to assist in the program, which was to help unity between the Afghan Mujahideen. It was not helpful in any way inside Afghanistan because after that training, the Afghans returned to their groups inside Afghanistan and kept working independently, same way as before. A number of Arabs did train in that camp, and some of them had important roles in the phases of the conflict that followed. Generally speaking, the training was less than was required, and the focus was on the spiritual and moral side rather than the military side. Later on, this would translate to the Maktab al-Khidmat, where there was a religious committee or a shura council also in charge of military studies, widow studies, media committees, widower committees, armaments committees. There was a lot of committees within that organization. And that would translate to Al-Qaeda, even currently. That structure that was created under individuals like Osama bin Laden, Abdullah Yusuf Azam, Abdullah Anas, and others. The camp did not achieve any of its objectives. The Afghans did not unite at all. While the Arabs did for a time gather around Sayyaf, as Azam had hoped, they began to scatter away from him from the Battle of Jaj in 1987, which revealed his weak leadership and the corruption of Sayyaf's groups at the front. In fact, Abu Abdullah, that's Osama bin Laden, was the biggest reason they left Sayyaf. Abu Abdullah had made his own large contribution in that battle and had unintentionally exposed these flaws in Sayyaf's leaderships and his groups. Azam was right on many things, but at the same time, he did not do the job properly. Azam was a very good speaker, and he gave excellent speeches because he could talk very well about the Quran, Sunnah, and Islamic history. But this was not sufficient at that time, and in fact may have been misused in some places. Leah Farrall. How so? Mustafa Hamid. Because these speeches put the youth in the mood of losing to die, to go to paradise, not to care about anything else. Although training was given on how to use the weapons alongside this religious training, there was no training on tactics. More importantly, on the political side of the military work and the implications of this regionally and internationally. Despite this, the experience of the Badr camp did show that the idea of training had taken hold among the Arab Afghans of Peshawar. Still, there were those who rejected the need for training and considered it a secular tendency which contradicted the principle of putting our trust in God. Remember in a meeting I had in 1986, one of the youths against training angrily said, "The liberation of Afghanistan will come from absolution hands, not trained hands." Leah Farrall. I presume this changed somewhat with Maktab al-Khidmat's formal establishment of the Sada camp in 1986. Mustafa Hamid. Yes. Although it was not really until after the Battle of Jaj in 1987 that support for training really increased. And why that was important, because the Battle of Jaj saw a handful of Arabs organized, beaten down, tired and hungry, beat a military high-quality unit in the Spetsnaz, the special unit of Russian military, and beat them at their own game in large-scale, open-ended warfare. Where the Russians lost was that the Arabs, the Afghan Arabs themselves, at the al-Masri camp, at the Battle of Jaj, had the will to die for a bigger cause. And this would translate later to al-Qaeda under Osama bin Laden, who they saw as a pariah of sorts. All right, that's the end of this chapter. Thank you for tuning in and taking an interest. I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.